Triplets interrupt press conference. Yell. That black billionaire is our father. The ballroom at the Astoria Grand in Midtown Manhattan was electric. The kind of charged energy that hovered just before a life-altering announcement. Glittering chandeliers swayed faintly overhead. Journalists packed in tight rows behind velvet ropes. Camera flashes bouncing off polished marble floors. In the center of it all stood Marcus Ellington, black billionaire, tech visionary, and the man who had turned community investment into a national movement. Clad in a deep navy suit that cut sharp against his rich brown skin, Marcus adjusted the lapel slightly before stepping up to the podium. He exhaled once, letting the noise of anticipation swell, then raised his hand. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, voice confident but calm. "Today is not about money. It's about legacy, about giving communities the tools to own their future." As applause swelled, Marcus smiled, not a performative grin, but the restrained satisfaction of a man who had clawed his way through a system that was never meant to work in his favor. He had every reason to feel proud. Until it happened. A high-pitched voice cut through the noise like a scalpel. "That black billionaire is our father!" Gasps. Cameras whipped around. Every phone in the room went up like a wall of glass. In the commotion, 3 figures emerged from the side of the ballroom. Kids, no, triplets, about 12 years old. A girl in oversized glasses and a red hoodie. A boy with a chipped tooth and determined eyes. And another girl, smaller, clutching a folder to her chest. The crowd went silent. "Did you hear what they said?" a reporter near the front whispered. Marcus froze. Security began to move, but Marcus raised a hand instinctively. "Wait!" He stepped from behind the podium, his face unreadable. The kids now stood at the base of the stage. All 3 were breathing hard, clearly frightened yet defiant. The one with the folder spoke next. "My name is Kiara Monroe." "This is Carter, and this is Ellie. You knew our mother." Marcus's heart dropped. He stared at the girl, those eyes, hazel brown, just like Angela's. His voice, usually so composed, cracked slightly. "What's your mother's name?" he asked. "Angela Monroe," Kiara answered, her chin raised. And just like that, the room exploded again. "Angela Monroe." The name hit Marcus like a brick to the chest. He hadn't heard it aloud in over a decade, but in his mind, it had never gone silent. Angela had been the one person who had known him before the titles, before the Forbes lists and the luxury townhouses. She had known Marcus Ellington when he was just Marcus Lee, the kid with busted sneakers and a head full of ambition running code out of the back of a laundromat in Newark. The room was still a frenzy of whispers and cameras. But for Marcus, the ballroom had collapsed into a tunnel. All he could see were those 3 faces, Kiara, Carter, and Ellie. They weren't lying. He could see it, in their eyes, in the way Carter clenched his jaw the same way he did when trying to hold back emotion. In the shape of Ellie's hands when she adjusted the folder. "Where's your mother now?" Marcus asked, his voice low, nearly drowned out by the noise. Kiara hesitated. "She passed away last year. Cancer." A murmur rippled through the press pit. One reporter lowered her camera. Another turned off his flash. "I didn't even know she had children," Marcus whispered, more to himself than anyone else. "You wouldn't," Carter said sharply. "You weren't around." Security finally reached them, unsure of whether to intervene or stand down. Marcus gave a single nod that made it clear. "Don't touch them." "We didn't come to cause trouble," Kiara said. "But we tried everything. Letters, emails. We even came to your office. Nobody ever let us in." Marcus felt his breath falter. "You sent letters?" Kiara reached into Ellie's folder and pulled out a stack of envelopes. Each one addressed to Ellington Global Ventures. Each one returned unopened, some creased, others smudged with fingerprints. They said we didn't exist. Said we were scammers, that your time was too valuable. Marcus looked up, but not at them, at his assistant Lauren, standing frozen by the side curtain. Her mouth parted, but she said nothing. It wasn't her fault. It was the system. A billion-dollar wall built to protect his time, his image and, ironically, his peace. And it had failed the people who should have never been on the outside. I want to talk to you, Marcus said finally, gesturing gently. Privately. Please. No, Carter cut in. You don't get to hide this behind closed doors. Not anymore. That was when the twist came. A woman's voice shouted from the side of the room, "They're lying!" All eyes turned. It was Vanessa Hart, Marcus's longtime PR consultant. Blonde, poised, designer heels echoing off marble, face flushed with panic. They're trying to blackmail you. I warned you, Marcus. This might happen with your old connections. Look at them. They staged this for attention. Kiara turned pale. Ellie clutched her sister's sleeve, but Carter stepped forward. We didn't stage anything, he said. We just wanted the truth. Marcus turned slowly toward Vanessa. Did you know about the letters? He asked quietly. Vanessa's face twitched. Marcus, we screen hundreds of claims. Did you know about the letters? He repeated, now louder. She didn't answer. He turned back to the room. This conference is over. Reporters shouted, cameras flashed. But Marcus didn't say another word. He walked toward the triplets, extended a hand. Come with me. And they did. As they disappeared behind the curtain, one reporter's voice cut through the chaos. Mr. Ellington, is it true? Are they really your children? Marcus stopped briefly, looked back, then simply said, We're about to find out. The private boardroom on the 42nd floor of Ellington Tower was quiet, too quiet. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of Manhattan, but no one was looking. Marcus stood near the glass, his hands clasped behind his back, while the triplets sat across the sleek oak conference table, their expressions unreadable. A carafe of water sat untouched. Ellie finally broke the silence. You're not going to say anything? Marcus turned slowly, his face unreadable. I'm trying to figure out how this happened without me knowing. That's the problem, Carter muttered. It happened without you. And then you didn't want to know. Carter, Kiara said gently, placing a hand on her brother's arm. No, Carter continued. He wants us to sit here quietly and wait while he plays catch-up on a past we had to live without him. Marcus didn't react. His expression was too measured, too still, and that made it worse. I didn't abandon anyone, Marcus said slowly. If what you're saying is true, then I didn't even know Angela had children. Then why did she leave? Kiara asked. Her voice trembled, but her eyes stayed locked on his. Why did she never try to reach you? Marcus hesitated. The weight of history bore down on him. She left without saying goodbye, he admitted. We had been fighting. I was working non-stop. Angela wanted more of me, more of my time. But I was building something. I thought she understood. She understood, Ellie said softly. She just stopped believing you'd ever come back. Marcus sat down slowly, the leather chair sighing beneath his weight. I've spent the last 20 years making sure no one ever gets through the cracks. I thought I had eyes everywhere. You didn't have eyes where it mattered, Carter shot back. You had walls. Silence settled again. heavier than before. Outside the windows, clouds loomed low over the skyline. "Why now?" Marcus asked after a moment. "Why come to the press conference?" "Because nobody listens unless it's loud," Ellie replied. "We tried the quiet way." "The respectful way, for years. But we weren't your clients, or your board, or your investors. We were 3 names on envelopes getting returned unopened." Marcus turned his gaze toward the city again, jaw tight. Then a new voice entered the room. "You forgot one envelope that got through." Lauren stood in the doorway, her phone in hand. She walked over to the table and placed a single, unopened letter beside Marcus. The handwriting was familiar. Angela's. Dated nearly a year before her death. "I found this in a stack marked for destruction," Lauren said. "Something about the return address stopped me. I don't know why I didn't show you then. I guess I thought, if it were important, it would have gone through proper channels. But now..." Marcus picked up the envelope and stared at it. His throat tightened. He didn't open it, not yet. "I don't know how to be a father," he said quietly. "We didn't ask you to be," Kiara said. "Not at first. We just wanted to be seen. To know we weren't a mistake," Ellie added. "To know that our mother wasn't invisible." The words cut deeper than any accusation. Marcus rose from his chair. "I need a paternity test," Carter scoffed. "Of course you do." Marcus met his eyes. "Not because I don't believe you. Because I want this to be right. I don't want there to be a sliver of doubt when I stand in front of every camera and tell the world that I have 3 children I should have known years ago." There was a long pause. Then Ellie gave a small nod. "Okay. I'll have my doctor reach out." "It'll be quick, confidential." Lauren cleared her throat. "Marcus, there's something else." He looked at her. "There's already a firestorm online. Video of the moment at the press conference is everywhere. The triplets' names are trending. People are speculating. Commentators are weighing in." "Of course they are," Marcus muttered. "We can spin it," Lauren continued. "We can control the narrative. Frame it as a misunderstanding, pending verification." "No," Marcus said firmly. "We don't spin family. Not this." Lauren blinked. "Then what do you want to say?" He looked back at the triplets, Kiara, Ellie, Carter. All 3 had different postures, different expressions, but they were bound together by something stronger than blood. They had fought to be heard. "I want to say I'm listening." Outside, thunder rumbled faintly. The door opened again, this time revealing Detective Gina Morales, a longtime ally of Marcus's from his Criminal Justice Foundation. Her brows were raised, her tone urgent. "We've got a problem," she said. "A blogger leaked photos of the kids at your mother's memorial last year. With timestamps. People are asking why they were there if you didn't know them." The triplets exchanged glances. "We were there," Carter admitted. "We kept our distance. We just wanted to see where you came from." Marcus stared at them, stunned. "You've known about me longer than I've known about you." Kiara nodded. "We didn't come to ruin you, Marcus. We came to remind you we exist." For the first time, Marcus Ellington, the man who'd controlled billion-dollar acquisitions, outmaneuvered hostile takeovers, and bent headlines to his will, felt completely unprepared. He whispered, "You didn't ruin me. You just changed everything." By the next morning, every major outlet in the country had picked up the story. Headlines ranged from cautious curiosity, "Ellington Empire rocked by paternity allegation," to outright spectacle, "Triplets claim black billionaire is their father in explosive scene." Social media, as always, was less forgiving. Memes, amateur sleuthing, fake timelines, and conspiracy theories spread like wildfire. Inside the Ellington estate, the tension was electric. Marcus sat in his home office, the morning sun filtering through blinds that hadn't been opened. He'd barely slept. The unopened letter from Angela still sat on his desk, its edges now frayed from handling, but not yet broken. Every time he reached for it, something inside him stopped him. Fear, guilt, or perhaps the dread of what truth might finally settle everything, one way or another. A knock on the door broke his thoughts. It was Lauren. "You need to see this," she said, stepping in and handing him a tablet. Marcus looked down at the screen. A video. Grainy footage taken from what looked like a cell phone across the street. It showed the three triplets, Carter, Kiara, and Ellie, standing outside a courthouse with a man. Marcus frowned. "Who is that with them?" Lauren's voice was even, but tinged with caution. "His name is Travis Cole, a lawyer, not a family attorney. He specializes in class action litigation and media manipulation. He's known for turning private cases into public movements." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "So they lawyered up? They say he's helping them get their birth certificates unsealed. Apparently the originals were modified when their mother relocated from Louisiana. The state's dragging its feet. Cole filed an emergency motion in federal court." Marcus set the tablet down. "So it's going public. Fast." Lauren sat across from him. "The question is, do you get ahead of it, or get buried by it?" He let out a long breath, rubbing his temples. "I asked for a paternity test, and they agreed. But it'll take a few days. In the meantime, people are writing their own versions. I won't smear them. I wasn't asking you to." Just then, a buzz came through the intercom. It was Rose, the house manager. "Mr. Ellington, there's someone at the front gate." "A woman named Simone Grant. She says it's urgent. Something about the kids." Marcus stood immediately. "Let her in." Lauren followed without question. Simone Grant was a name Marcus hadn't heard in almost 15 years. She was Angela's closest friend, once described by Angela herself as the only person I'd trust with my life. When Simone entered the foyer, she carried herself with the calm command of a woman who didn't care about his wealth or title. She wore simple clothes, her grey-streaked hair pulled into a neat bun, her face marked with lines that hinted at a life of hard truths. "Marcus," she said flatly. "Simone?" "It's been a long time." "Not long enough," she shot back. "I came because they won't tell you the full truth, and you need to hear it." "All of it." Lauren shifted beside him, instinctively on edge. Marcus gave her a glance. "Give us a moment." When they were alone, Simone stepped closer, voice lowering. "Angela never stopped loving you, but she was scared. After she found out she was pregnant, she wrote to you. Dozens of times, but nothing came back, not even once." Marcus's breath caught. "I never received anything. I believe you, but I also believe someone made sure you didn't." His brow furrowed. "Who?" "Your father." The room seemed to tilt. Simone continued. "You remember he was against you being with her, called her a distraction. Said she'd ruin your ambition. When she disappeared, it wasn't because she wanted to leave. It was because she was pushed away." "Angela told me your father sent someone. Told her if she stayed, he'd bury her, legally, financially, and maybe worse." "She left to protect the babies." Marcus sank into the nearest chair, his pulse racing. "My father died 5 years ago." "But his choices didn't," Simone said. "Angela didn't want to fight a man like him. She wanted her children to have peace. She worked 2 jobs to raise them. She never once asked for money." "But she always told them about you. She didn't lie. She said you were kind, brilliant, driven, and that one day You might find them. He was silent for a long time. I owe them everything, Marcus whispered. No, Simone corrected. You owe them the truth. Start there. Outside, a car engine idled. Lauren returned, her tone measured. The triplets are here. They didn't call ahead. Marcus stood slowly. Let them in. In the living room, Carter paced like a lion trapped in a cage. Ellie clutched her phone. Kiara stared out the window. When Marcus walked in, he held something in his hand. The letter, he said. From your mother. I haven't opened it yet. Kiara stepped forward. Then let's do it. Together. He nodded. They sat, all four of them. Marcus slowly opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet. Angela's handwriting, fluid, elegant. He read aloud. Marcus, if you're reading this, I'm gone. But they are not. Their names are Kiara, Carter, and Ellie. They are everything I never had the chance to say. Everything I hoped we would build together. Tell them I never meant to keep them from you. Tell them I believed in you, even when the world said not to. When he finished, the silence was thunderous. Ellie wiped tears. Carter looked away. Kiara leaned forward, placing a hand over the letter. We believe in you too, she said. Marcus swallowed the lump in his throat. Then let me prove I deserve it. 3 days after the letter was read aloud, the world outside Marcus Ellington's gates hadn't calmed. If anything, it had grown more intense. News vans lined the street. Opinion pieces and interviews swirled online. Everyone had an opinion about the triplets and their claim, despite the lack of definitive proof. But inside those gates, a more personal battle was unfolding. Marcus paced the perimeter of his private office with a legal document in hand, a paternity test authorization. It had taken nearly 72 hours of negotiating with the triplets' attorney, Travis Cole, to finalize the terms. Marcus had insisted on no media presence, no streaming, no spin, just a private test, controlled. Secure. The test had been administered earlier that morning, and now they waited. Lauren stood near the window, phone in hand, eyes scanning the street. They're not just kids anymore. They're a brand now. The public is buying into their story because it feels right. Righteous. Marcus turned to her. You think I'm losing the narrative? She looked at him evenly. I think this isn't about narrative. This is about trust, which you haven't earned with them yet. Before Marcus could respond, the door opened. Carter stepped inside, uninvited, but not apologetic. We need to talk. Marcus gestured to the chair across from his desk. Carter didn't sit. I don't trust you yet, Carter said. But I want to. Marcus nodded. That's fair. My sisters, they want the fairy tale. I don't blame them. But I'm not here to be anyone's son if you're just going to write checks and disappear. I want answers. To what? To why you weren't there. Marcus exhaled. I didn't know. Until the press conference, I didn't even know Angela had kids. Carter's face hardened. You expect me to believe that? I'm not asking you to believe. I'm asking you to read this. Marcus handed him a printout. Simone Grant's affidavit, part of a private file Lauren had compiled. It detailed what Simone had shared, the threats from Marcus's father, the letters Angela wrote that never reached him, the silence that was manufactured, not chosen. Carter took it, skimmed it, then sat down slowly. Your father did this. He was a master manipulator, Marcus said quietly. Controlled everything, even me, until it was too late. Carter leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You think a story makes it okay? No, but maybe it makes sense. The silence lingered. Then Carter nodded, just once.
We'll see.
Just then, Rose buzzed through the intercom.
Sir, the courier is here. The results are in.
The air shifted. Marcus stood. Bring them to the conference room. By the time the triplets, Lauren and Travis Cole, gathered, the envelope sat in the center of the table like a live grenade. No one moved at first. Kiara reached for it.
May I?
She asked Marcus. He nodded.
Please.
Her hands trembled as she opened the seal. She pulled out the papers, scanned them, and then covered her mouth with her hand. Carter took them gently from her. He read aloud. Paternity probability, 99.98%. Biological relationship confirmed between Marcus Ellington and subjects Carter R. Lane, Kiara B. Lane, and Eleanor C. Lane. Ellie blinked.
So it's real. We're really your kids.
Marcus's breath caught in his throat.
Yes.
You are. The room sat in stunned silence, and then Ellie, without hesitation, crossed the space and hugged him.
I knew it,
she whispered. I just knew it. Carter followed, less emotional but solid in his gesture. A handshake. Firm. Marcus pulled him in. Finally, Kiara stepped forward. We're not looking for money. I know. We want to know you. But more than that, we want to understand who we are. Marcus met her eyes. Then we start today. It should have been a happy ending. But the very next morning, a news story broke in the press. Not about the paternity test, not about Angela, but about Marcus. A woman named Vanessa Langley, a former employee at one of Ellington's media subsidiaries, filed a public lawsuit, claiming workplace retaliation and discriminatory practices. The timing was precise, too precise. Lauren burst into Marcus's study with the news. This wasn't random. She's never even met me, Marcus said, scanning the lawsuit summary. Exactly. Which means someone helped her. Marcus's jaw tightened. You think it's connected to the triplets? No. I think someone else doesn't want you distracted with them. Someone who's been waiting for the perfect moment to hit you. Who? Lauren didn't blink. Board member? Competitor? Take your pick. Marcus looked toward the window, where the triplets played basketball in the courtyard, finally at ease for the first time. He clenched his fists. Whoever's trying to break this apart just made it personal. The next 48 hours turned Marcus Ellington's life into a siege. The lawsuit from Vanessa Langley, strategically launched just after the paternity results went public, lit a media wildfire. The tabloids spun it as a billionaire's empire cracking under personal and professional pressure. Headlines blared phrases like triplet scandal and from tycoon to target, as if Marcus's identity had gone from icon to liability overnight. Inside his mansion, the mood darkened. Carter, Kiara, and Ellie, so full of hope just a day earlier, were now cautious, reserved. They tiptoed through the halls, unsure of their place in Marcus's world. Do you believe her? Carter asked, standing by the kitchen window as a news segment dissected the allegations. I don't even know who she is, Marcus said flatly. She worked 3 floors below me for less than a year. We never had a conversation. But they're saying she has emails. Witnesses. They always do when there's leverage involved. Carter didn't reply. He just nodded slightly, then left the room. Lauren burst in moments later, papers in hand. We traced it, she said, tossing a folder on the counter. Vanessa Langley was approached by a third-party law group 2 months ago. Firm has ties to Ron Wexler. Marcus's eyes narrowed. Wexler? He's been gunning for my chair for years. Lauren leaned in. He's trying to use your connection to the triplets to paint you as emotionally unstable. that you're making erratic decisions to protect your image. This lawsuit isn't about Langley. It's about discrediting you and getting your seat at Ellington Global. I made one vulnerable move and they saw it as weakness.
No,
Lauren said. They saw it as opportunity. In another part of the estate, Kiara and Ellie sat in the sunroom. The tension hadn't gone unnoticed.
he's not perfect.
Kiara said, scrolling through a news article. But this, it feels targeted. Ellie nodded.
Yeah, but we just got here.
If this gets worse, what if it backfires on us? What are you saying? I'm saying maybe we give it space. Step back. Let him handle this. Kiara's jaw tightened.
You're scared. I'm realistic.
Before the conversation could continue, Carter appeared.
He's calling a press conference, Carter said.
What?
Now? In an hour. Downtown.
He's not hiding anymore. The building was surrounded by cameras before Marcus even arrived. He walked in through the back, flanked by Lauren and Travis Cole, his jaw clenched, expression unreadable. Inside the conference room, dozens of reporters buzzed with tension. Rumors were flying. Some said he was stepping down. Others speculated he'd deny the triplets again. No one expected what actually happened. When Marcus walked up to the podium, he didn't bring notes. "I've built my career on silence," he began, letting results speak for themselves. But silence is no longer a luxury I can afford. The room stilled.
2 days ago, I received confirmation that I am the biological father of Carter, Kiara, and Eleanor Lane. I did not know about them. I was never told.
But now I do know, and that changes everything. He paused, his voice steady. Today, allegations have been made against me. Serious ones. They deserve to be investigated, and they will be. I will not hide from them. But I will also not allow anyone to use these children, or my relationship with them, as a political weapon. He scanned the crowd. I'm not stepping down. I'm not walking away. And I will not let the mistakes of others define this moment.
My children deserve better, and so does this company.
The reporters exploded with questions, but Marcus stepped back, letting Lauren take over. Backstage, the triplets watched the broadcast on a monitor. Ellie's eyes welled with tears.
He called us his children. He didn't have to,
Kiara whispered. Carter remained silent, but his jaw loosened. His shoulders fell just slightly. Hours later, while Marcus debriefed with legal, a courier delivered an unmarked envelope to the mansion's front gate. Inside, surveillance photos. Grainy but clear enough. Vanessa Langley at a quiet lunch 2 weeks prior, with Ron Wexler. Underneath, a typed note. Not the only thing they've buried. Dig deeper. Marcus stared at the images, something tightening in his chest. Lauren hovered behind him.
Someone wants us to win. Or they want chaos.
He held up the photos.
Either way, we're not done.
Marcus hadn't slept. By sunrise, his team had already traced the anonymous envelope to a freelance investigator based in Sacramento. No name, no return address, just a paper trail linking him to a dozen major corporate takedowns. Ghost for hire. But someone had paid him to leak intel, and it was clear. Someone on the inside wanted Ron Wexler exposed. Lauren slid a dossier across Marcus's desk. "We have enough to bury him." Marcus flipped through pages, emails, flight records, old HR complaints involving Wexler suppressing whistleblowers, and one damning clause in the company's bylaws Wexler had pushed through in a closed-door session. It allowed executive override on compliance audits, if and only if no familial conflict of interest was disclosed. "Which means," Marcus said slowly, "if he knew about the kids and hid it from the board, it's a breach." Marcus leaned back.
But that would mean someone told him before I even knew.
Lauren was quiet. "I want everyone vetted," Marcus said. Board members, assistants.
Even you. Lauren didn't flinch. Already started. Meanwhile, across town, the triplets were grappling with a different storm. Kiara paced her room, her phone buzzing with texts from college friends, blogs reposting memes of them with headlines like, "The Billionaire's Bastards." Ellie had already shut down her social media. Carter, however, sat in the corner, scrolling through the company's quarterly reports. "You reading earnings now?" Kiara asked. Carter didn't look up. "Trying to understand what he built, before we decide where we stand." Ellie threw a pillow at the wall. "We stood in front of cameras for him. We declared it to the world, and now we're being dragged for it." "You wanted the truth," Carter replied. "Now we have to decide what to do with it." A soft knock interrupted them. Marcus stood in the doorway. His eyes looked older than yesterday. "I need to talk to you," he said. The three siblings followed him downstairs into the den. A fire crackled in the hearth, but the tension in the room ran colder than stone. "There's a war coming," Marcus said. "Ron Wexler doesn't just want me out. He wants my name destroyed." "Because of us?" Ellie asked. "Because of fear," Marcus corrected. "People like him fear what they can't control. And what he can't control is a man with a legacy he didn't create." He handed each of them a document. "What's this?" Carter asked. "Trust contracts. You are now officially beneficiaries of the Ellington Foundation, 20% each." Kiara blinked. "We don't need... I didn't say this to make you grateful. I'm telling you because now you're targets too." Ellie whispered. "You think he'll come after us?" "He already is. Social smears. Background digs. Maybe worse." Silence. Then Marcus added, "But I don't want you afraid. I want you ready." Carter finally asked, "What do you want from us?" Marcus looked them each in the eye. "Stand with me. Not because I'm your father, but because this moment is bigger than all of us." That night, as the Ellington estate slept under a veil of security lights, a different storm was brewing. Wexler convened an emergency meeting at his private club. 3 board members sat around the table, one sipping scotch, another rubbing his temples. "This is going sideways," one muttered. "You said he'd crumble." Wexler growled, "He will. I've got someone who knows what those kids were doing before this." "What do you mean?" "I mean Carter has a sealed juvenile record from New Jersey. Kiara was involved in a student protest that turned into property damage. Ellie was on medication for anxiety." "That's weak." Wexler smiled coldly. "Perception is reality. I'll turn them into symbols of instability, and if I can't get Marcus out directly, I'll make the board scared enough to force his hand." "But what if it backfires?" Wexler leaned forward. "It won't. Because people don't want truth. They want reassurance that power stays where it's always been." Back at the estate, Carter couldn't sleep. He slipped into Marcus's office and found an old black and white photo on the desk. Marcus, as a young man, standing beside a woman Carter didn't recognize. His father stepped in behind him. "That's your grandmother?" Marcus said. "She cleaned banks for a living." "Every night. Her hands bled so mine wouldn't have to." Carter looked at the photo. "Why didn't you tell us sooner?" "I didn't know," Marcus admitted. "But now that I do, I can't unknow it." He placed a hand on his son's shoulder. "Power isn't about money, Carter. It's about what you protect when no one's watching." For the first time since the chaos began, Carter nodded, not out of fear, but from understanding. They weren't just inheriting his fortune, they were inheriting his fight. By the following week, national headlines were no longer about markets or mergers. They were about bloodlines, about a black billionaire with triplet heirs no one knew existed.
about a boardroom civil war that was quickly becoming a morality play for the entire country. The Ellington Foundation's press office was flooded. Interview requests, legal inquiries. Paparazzi on motorbikes, but the man at the center of it all, Marcus Ellington, was calm, calculating. A general preparing for his final strike. At 9:00 a.m. sharp, Marcus entered the boardroom at Ellington Global. The room was full, 12 board members in stiff suits, Ron Wexler at the far end, flanked by 2 legal advisors. "Let's begin," Marcus said, placing a thick folder on the table. Wexler gave a condescending smile. "Before you do, I believe I have the floor." He stood slowly and turned to the others. "We've allowed Marcus Ellington to run this company like a kingdom. Now, new personal entanglements have emerged, children no one knew about. Disruptions to public image, violations of disclosure policy. We have no idea what else is coming, and that makes him a liability." He paused. "Therefore, I move for a vote of no confidence in Marcus's leadership." Murmurs erupted. One board member leaned forward. "Is this about legacy or control, Ron?" Wexler kept his tone even. "It's about stability." Marcus didn't respond right away. He waited, let the tension stretch. Then he opened the folder. "Stability," he repeated, flipping the top page. "Interesting choice of words, Ron, especially for someone who's been diverting foundation funds into shell charities connected to your cousin's consultancy in Reno." Psps. "You think I didn't know?" Marcus said. "You've been hiding behind my name while feeding your own ambitions." Wexler's face turned red. "That's slander." "No," Marcus said, sliding documents across the table. "It's forensic accounting, done by an independent audit firm I hired 6 months ago. Every wire. Every check. Every tax-deductible gift." A board member picked up one document and paled. "And here," Marcus continued, holding up a USB drive, "are the sealed HR complaints you buried involving whistleblower retaliation. Those were dismissed," Wexler snapped. "Because you threatened to pull funding from their departments. One of them is now under whistleblower protection. She'll be testifying next week." The room fell silent. Marcus walked to the window, then turned around. "Let's be clear," he said. "This isn't just about business. This is about character, about leadership. You all trusted me to build this empire. I've done that. And now, when you learn I have children I didn't know existed until weeks ago, you let fear creep in. Fear that my legacy includes more than just profits." He looked around the room, his voice lower now. "I'm not ashamed of my children. I'm proud of them, and I will not let them grow up in a world where truth gets punished and manipulation gets rewarded." Another pause. "If anyone here thinks I've lost my edge, then vote. But understand, if you back Wexler, you're also backing what he's done behind the scenes. You'll be tied to every scandal, every audit, every lawsuit that's coming." A heavy silence. One by one, hands started to go up, not for Wexler, for Marcus. 10-2. Motion denied. Wexler slumped back in his chair. His lawyers whispered. He didn't say another word. Later that afternoon, Marcus walked into the atrium of the Ellington building. Waiting there were Kiara, Carter, and Ellie. They were dressed for business, not as props, but as future leaders. "How'd it go?" Kiara asked. Marcus smiled faintly. "I still have a job." Carter looked him in the eye. "What now?" Marcus nodded toward the conference center behind them. "Now," he said, "we introduce you to the people you'll one day lead." But before they could move, the lobby doors swung open. A reporter, breathless, ran inside holding a tablet. "Mr. Ellington," she said, "there's a breaking story. Ron Wexler's been indicted. Federal prosecutors just unsealed documents." Wire fraud, tax evasion, whistleblower retaliation. Marcus's face didn't change. But Kiara noticed his hand tighten briefly into a fist before relaxing again. I hope he hires a good lawyer, Marcus said quietly. He's going to need it. Across the street, Ron Vexler sat in a black SUV. His face pale, his phone rang and rang unanswered. Then, one final ping. A news alert. Ellington heirs named official board advisors. Triplets join Marcus Ellington in expanding legacy. Ron closed his eyes. It was over. But for Marcus and his children, the real work was just beginning. They weren't just the end of an era. They were the beginning of a new one. The night after the vote, the Ellington Tower stood like a lighthouse in the city skyline, tall, steady, and unshaken. But inside, in Marcus Ellington's private office, things were anything but calm. A single lamp cast a warm glow over the room as he sat at his desk, staring at a photo now placed at the center of everything, a candid shot of the triplets taken years ago by their late mother, Naomi. Their faces young, messy with birthday cake, unaware of the storm that life would throw at them years later. He hadn't moved in a while, not because he was frozen, but because he was reflecting, processing. Realizing that everything he had spent decades building now had a new, far more meaningful purpose. Outside the office, the triplets waited quietly in the hallway. Kiara leaned against the wall, arms crossed but her eyes vulnerable. Carter paced, his phone buzzing with congratulatory messages from people who had once ignored him. Ellie, ever the empath, looked toward the door and whispered, "He's thinking about her." When Marcus finally stepped out, they all stood straight, not out of fear, but out of respect. He looked at them, not as the stranger they'd once shouted at in a press conference, but as a father. "I've made many decisions in my life," he began. "Some smart, some calculated, and some I'll regret forever." His eyes landed on each of them. "But bringing you into my world, accepting you as my children, will never be one of those regrets." Ellie teared up, quickly blinking it away. Kiara didn't flinch, but her posture softened. Carter gave a sharp nod, like a soldier finally hearing the words he never dared to hope for. "You're not my backup plan," Marcus continued. "You're my future." They stood in silence for a moment longer before Kiara asked, "What now?" Marcus smiled faintly. "Now you start training. From tomorrow, you'll sit in on executive briefings. You'll shadow department heads. You'll see everything. The numbers, the politics, the pressure. And what about the people outside this building?" Carter asked. "The ones who think we're a scandal, not a legacy." Marcus walked to the window, looking down at the city below. "Let them watch. Let them doubt. But we won't give them a reason to pity us or underestimate us. We'll outwork, outthink, and outlast." He turned back to them. "But not by being me. By being better than me." Weeks passed, and the story transformed. What began as a viral headline shifted into a powerful narrative. 3 young adults stepping into a legacy not given, but earned. Kiara took over communications strategy for the Ellington Foundation's education fund, rebranding it with a sharper focus on equity and real impact. Ellie started sitting in on mental health initiatives and surprised the board when she proposed a school-based pilot program that garnered national praise. Carter moved between finance and technology, impressing even the skeptics with his quiet resilience and sharp insight. One evening, Marcus hosted a public town hall. It wasn't scripted. There were no planted questions, just a microphone and an open floor. A woman stood up. "You've built an empire, but now that you've found your children, are you stepping back?" Marcus didn't hesitate. "No," he said, "I'm stepping forward so they know how to do it when it's their time.
Legacy isn't about inheritance.
It's about instruction. The crowd applauded, but in the front row, Kiara leaned toward her siblings and whispered, "That sounded like a challenge." Ellie grinned. "It sounded like a dare." Carter nodded. "Good, let's accept it." In the months that followed, changes came quickly. Old board members retired quietly.
New advisors joined, including a former journalist who had first broken the Triplets story. And slowly, the Ellington name no longer just meant wealth, it meant change.
One night, after another long day, the family stood on the balcony of Marcus's penthouse. The city stretched beneath them like a circuit board. Alive. Electric. "You think Mom would be proud?" Ellie asked softly. Marcus didn't speak right away. Then, without turning, he said, "She'd be proud of you. I'm just catching up." A hush fell between them. But it wasn't empty. It was full. With respect. With history. With something as unspoken as it was undeniable. Family. Marcus raised a glass of bourbon.
"To truth," he said. The Triplets raised theirs, sparkling water, ginger ale, and whatever Ellie had mixed. "To legacy," Carter added.
"To second chances," Kiara said. "And Ellie?" She smiled and whispered, "To not letting fear write the ending." This story began with a press conference interrupted by 3 young voices. It ends with a family unified, a company transformed, and a nation reminded that identity, no matter how complex, how unexpected, is never a weakness. It's a beginning. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that the truth always deserves to be heard, and that real power is what we do with second chances, then don't forget to support this channel. Because every story we tell is a chance to rewrite the ending, and sometimes the twist is just the truth waiting to be told.